Hello booktubers, this is my part 2 of my Bookfest mega book haul because it's still going. I'm not going to talk too much now, I'm just going to keep showing you books. The first one I have to show you is awesome. It is Wicked by Gregory Maguire, and I am so excited to read this. The one I have to show you is Cain and Abel by Jeffrey Archer. I heard really good things about this book in connection to its biblical references, which I really like it when books have biblical references. This one is The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. This is the first book in the Discworld series, which is like a 40-book series, and I am just so excited to read this. It looks like a quick read and it's just going to be awesome because just Terry Pratchett. Next one is Deja Dead, which is the first book in a series that inspired the Bones TV show, which I love. Haven't watched much of, but I like it, and I have started reading this on my Kindle. I got the sample and I saw this for $2.50 and decided yup. So I will probably end up reading the rest of the series if I like this a lot, which I imagine I will. The next book is Flowers in the Attic by Virginia Andrews, but is commonly known as VC Andrews. I don't know what this cover is. It's kind of weird. It's not the cover I'm used to, but it was the book that I wanted. So this is the first book in a trilogy or a 4-book series, I think, and I also think this is becoming a movie. Next book is Guilty Pleasures by Lauren K. Hamilton. This is another massive series. I think there's like 20-something books in it, maybe less, maybe more, I don't know. But as far as I know, it is about this chick here, and she's a vampire hunter, so I'm getting some Buffy kind of vibes from this, which I love. The next book I have to show is the only Stephen King book I bought, which is kind of weird because generally when I go to the Bookfest, that's when I go get my Stephen King fill-up. Because I actually have a lot of unread or read Stephen King books on my shelf, as you can see, Stephen King shelf, there's not very many books that are at the Bookfest that I don't already own, or I kind of may have dilapidated their Stephen King resources in the last couple of years because I've, taken all of them. So yeah, I only got one, but it is one of the ones I actually wanted to find, and it is The Green Mile, which I absolutely love the movie. I know I don't normally watch movies before I read the book, but I kind of walked in on someone watching it and then I couldn't leave. It was so good. It is a long movie, but it is definitely worth it, and I will get around to reading this book. I got my first Terry Brooks book, and that is The Sword of Shannara. I don't know if I said that right. I've heard this is kind of like a rip-off of Lord of the Rings. Like, it is literally so damn close to the plot line of Lord of the Rings, it's practically the same thing. Which I don't think I mind, because who doesn't like Lord of the Rings? It's kind of awesome. The next book I have is Sabriel by Garth Nix. I like Garth Nix. As far as I know, Garth Nix is actually an Australian author. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't actually know. I have read some of his children's books, which were the Keys to the Kingdom series. I read that when I was younger and I absolutely loved them, and I saw this and I'm like, this is the first book in a series and I definitely want to get around to it. I have absolutely no idea what it's about. The next 2 books are done by the same author, and they were the top 2 books by him that I wanted to get into as soon as possible, and they are The Air Affair and Shades of Grey by Jasper Fforde. Absolutely want to read this book like ASAP because it sounds mega awesome. If you don't know what it's about, it is about a dystopian society where people are sorted based on colour perception, because people can only see a certain colour and that makes them either better or less than someone else. So that sounds so cool, and this is an adult book, so I haven't read very many adult dystopians, so it should be very interesting. The next book I got practically kind of ties up my Jeffrey Eugenides collection, and that is The Marriage Plot. I have read The Virgin Suicides and Middlesex. Absolutely loved Middlesex. Virgin Suicides was okay, but I read the sample of this on my Kindle. I loved it, and like the plotline just sounds absolutely amazing. So yes. The next one I practically picked up based on the cover and the setting of the book, which I think is set in India. And that is The Glass Palace by Amitabh Ghosh. I think I've seen it in a previous book fair and just ended up not having enough money to buy it. This time I did, and yes, it's set in Burma, Malaya and India. I just have really been needing to read books that are set in a wider variety of places, especially India. I'm really interested in Indian culture. The next book I have is another fantasy book, and it is a beast, but it's kind of awesome. I just have really been meaning to get around to it. I got a really beautiful copy of it. I think I paid $4 for this instead of just $2.50, which, yeah, I only paid $4 for it. And it is Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth. I've heard this being named one of the best fantasy or medieval books, and I'm definitely excited to get it. The next book I got, I honestly couldn't believe I found, because I have almost bought this book so many times at bookstores, but because it was so small and it was so expensive, I just could never fathom it. And then this book is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. I wanted to read this book for practically over 2 years now since I've heard about it, and just, yeah, look at the sticker on the back from someone else who bought it. Almost $26. So, yeah, like, I would just... Australian book prices suck, and that's why the Bookfest is kind of like the best thing ever. The next book I got, practically based on the fact that it's on so many of, like, you must read these books before you die lists, and I've heard really good things about the author based on authors I've read that I would like him. And that book is White Noise by Don DeLillo. I'm not exactly sure what this is about. I've just kind of picked it up based on hype around it, which, you know, sometimes it's a good idea. So yeah, don't know when I'll get around to reading most of these books, but yeah. Next book also bought because of hype around, and it is The Lies of Loch Lamora, and I have a awesome cover of it. It looks really pretty on my spine. It is sparkly and blue, and the book I got was The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen, and this is set around Christmas about a family trying to reconnect. So another family book, which I like because there's just so much character development in family scenarios. So I enjoy that. I love character development. It's probably the best thing that there is. The next book was another book that was kind of short, and I didn't want to pay the $30 to buy it, and it is Room by Emma Donoghue. This is about a mother and a son that I think get kidnapped or they're held, and it's about this. It's from the boy's perspective, and it's kind of how he deals with his captivity. But I don't know if he's actually aware that they're captives. But yeah, it's psychological, but it's good. This came out a couple years ago, and since it came out, I wanted to read it. I got some Kazuo Ishiguro novels, and they're probably the best two I probably could have found because I knew about both of them, and those are The Remains of the Day, which is the movie tie-in cover, and Never Let Me Go, which is the normal cover, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's also really good. I don't know whether it's sci-fi or fantasy. I think it's more fantasy, but the author is in between both, and that is The Earthsea Quartet by Ursula Le Guin. And I don't know what this is about, but I've heard absolutely amazing things about this quartet, and yeah, I'm excited I got it all in one. I heard about this series ages ago, and I got the first book there because I honestly couldn't believe I found it, and it is Feed by Mira Grant. It is a zombie novel series, and it is kind of, as far as I know, set up like blog posts. So blogging and zombie apocalypse, yeah, it's totally up my alley. It seems like every single time I go, I pick up a new Margaret Atwood book, and I still haven't read any of her books yet. I think I now own 4, including this one, but I've heard amazing things about this one. Probably like her second most famous after The Handmaid's Tale, and it is Elias Grace, and I don't know what this is about, but I've heard a lot of hype around this book, and I will get to it probably after I read The Handmaid's Tale, because that is on the top of my list of hers to read this year. I have to show you the 2 YA books I got. The first, I think they're both the first in the series. The first one is A Great and Terrible Beauty. I wanted to read this book since I was in school, which was over a year ago, and I just, oh my god, the pages are all bent. Oh, I'll fix that later. I've heard this is just really good. This series is really, really good. And I got my first Gail Forman book, and it is If I Stay. I wanted to read Just One Day before this, but because I could pick this up for $2.50 and I couldn't pick up Just One Day for $2.50, I'll probably start this one first. The next book is the biggest book I bought, and it's huge and it's just massive, but it is set in India, which is the reason I wanted to read it. Oh, it's so heavy. And it is A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, and I honestly can't read that name and not think about that Friends episode where that name is referenced. I've watched Friends too many times. But yes, this book is mega huge. I'm just, it's, guys, it's like almost 1,500 pages. That's as big as Les Mis. Like, no joke. Next book I got, literally, I recognized the front cover from a list I'd read the night before, I think, of books that are challenging. And this book was challenging because of the content, not because of how long it is. And the content is apparently very creepy, and, well, I like creepy books, and I like scary books because that's awesome. Just, it's great. And this book is Out by Natsuo Kirino. I probably butchered that with my accent, but yeah. It's got a knife almost in a girl's eye. Like, that's creepy. But as far as I know what the story's about, it is about these 4 women who work at a factory all together. And one night, things lead to something and they end up, I don't know if it's an accident or not, but they end up killing a guy. And that affects the rest of these women's lives. And apparently that's creepy. I have more books to show you, and one of them I've already read, but I'll show you. I got The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I already read this. I read this practically right now, last year, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. It is almost time for a reread, but I don't intend to reread it until the 3rd book comes out, and then I can read the 2nd one for the first time, and then read the 3rd one, and it can all just happen together. Because this book is told over 3 days, and so I just want to. It just seems more logical to read it all together. But yes, if you haven't read this book, you need to pick it up and read it sometime before the 3rd one comes out, so you can join in on everyone. Like, best fantasy stuff. I don't even know if it's best fantasy. When I think of fantasy, I think of this book. It's great. Like, it's awesome. And it's, like, not what you would expect. It wasn't what I expected going into this. When people said this is the best fantasy book, I didn't go into it. I didn't get out of it what I expected, and it was a good thing. Do I think there are dragons in this? I honestly can't remember. It's muddled. My brain's muddled. Next, I bought this book because of a recommendation from Mercy's Bookish Musings, which I absolutely love her channel, and I will link down below because you should all follow her because she's awesome and she has a great taste. And this book is The Night Watch by Sarah Waters. I think this is the same edition she has. And when I saw it on its spine, I was like, oh my goodness, like, she's talked about this book and she loved it, and that means I'll probably love it because we have very similar tastes. So I picked this up. And this is about wartime Britain. And that's about as much as I can't remember much about it. We're on to the last book, and the last book I picked up because I think it is also set in India, it's set in Eastern Asia, and it is The God of Small Things. It is done by Arundhati Roy, and I intend to read this like in the next month or so. It's one of the tiny books I bought, or regular sized books. I read a lot of really big books, but that's okay. So yes, this is the edition I wanted to. It's a very pretty cover. As you can see, there is a rip there, and I need to preserve it. So yeah, I paid $4 for this book, and it's got a rip in it, which makes me really sad. But yes, I intend to read this soon. Don't really know what it's about. It is family based as far as I know. Yes, it shall be good. So we are at the end. I was literally dreading making these videos because of how many books I bought, and I had already put them on the bookshelf, that's why there is spaces. And then I had to take them out, and then so I could, you know, show it. Yeah. Sorry if this is long and you've already left or whatever. Thanks for sticking with me. I just like showing you my books because they're kind of awesome. And if you want to see any of these books reviewed, or if you want me to read them sooner than I had planned, please let me know so I can add them to my TBR, or, you know, my ASAP TBR, which is getting longer than it should be. Well, I will try to post more regular videos. I know I am ridiculously bad at that, but who knows? Maybe I'll do some reviews. I don't intend there'll be any more book hauls for a very long time. Bye.